Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ultimate Mixtape Challenge. Today, we're going to do a progressive rock one. So this is the Ultimate Progressive Rock Mixtape Challenge. We've got in the panel, Mr. Mike Portnoy, woo! Mr. Kurdt Vanderhoof, Mr. Martin Popoff, and our judge today is none other than Jack Toledano. So if you guys have watched these shows previously, we'll have each panelist give their track list for their mixtapes. We've decided since it's a prog rock mixtape, can't do a 60-minute because what are you going to fit 3-4 songs on there, right? So we decided to up it to a 90-minute, 45 minutes per side. I'm going to have Martin kick us off with his mixtape for Jack.
Okay. All right. So my tape is I did about a 50% sort of run at being a completist and historically hitting all the marks. So we got about 50% on that. I went a little above 50% in terms of, picking songs that would get people interested, that wouldn't scare them away, that aren't too long, that are pretty accessible, to actually like sell somebody on prog rock, right? So, okay, to start with, I went with Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, just because it's one of these most immediate, super catchy songs. It's got that standard right down the middle prog thing. It's got hooks, it's keyboardy, and it's super important. It's the second greatest prog album of all time, right, Pete? As we always talk about. So after that, I went with Vandergraaf Generator Masks. That's from October 76, their 7th album, World Record. And
sorry, what was the song again?
Masks from Vandergraaf Generator. And that's to go sort of krautrock without picking a German band. They're like representing the Amandul 2 wing of the party here, but they're English, with Peter Hamill being this super thespian guy. It's just super entertaining. You kind of get a snicker out of his pathos, right? Then I went with, I got a couple of props here. I didn't go crazy with the props, but what do we got here? I brought out a UK. This is one that, many of us considered the greatest prog supergroup of all time. Off of that, I went with In the Dead of Night, 5 minutes and 34 seconds. We've got Bruford, Wetton, Eddie Jobson, great drumming, like really cool drum sounds that he goes with, that ploipy, loose ahead sort of feel on some of the toms, right? That timbalishness to it. And just a really catchy tune with a lot of neat counterpointy rhythms. And then for Yes, I had to have Yes in here, but I actually went with something later. And again, kind of short, but really catchy. The title track from Going for the One. This is my favorite Yes album. So just something that wouldn't scare people away and isn't too particularly long. So that actually finishes off the 70s for me. Here, I was very uncompletist in like going, picking the things I had to pick, right? Moving into the 80s, I went with Rush, Jacob's Ladder. Just for something that was proggy, but it's in that period where it's also super interesting and it's not so usual. So maybe they aren't going to be sick of that one. I went with, I know I got a lot of heck for picking this as, I might have picked this as my favorite prog album of all time when we did the prog show, right, Pete? King Crimson Beat. I love this era of King Crimson. It's a bit sacrilege because it's not really considered too proggy, but I went with Neurotica, which is one of the, the heavier, more action-packed songs, a lot of guitar, a lot of crazy drums on that as well. We've got Bill Bruford back again, so that's 1982. I had Palace in there with Cut and Run to help represent the new wave of British progressive rock, but I took that out, so that's not in anymore. But I did have to put in Marillion. So I put in Heart of Lothian from this, which is short, 404. This is their 3rd album to represent that crossover period. And one weird choice, It Bites, Underneath Your Pillow, 525. Francis Dunnery, that's from Eat Me in St. Louis, 1989. That goes into that sort of TT Quick, Dan Reed Network dance metal era. And you've got a singer that sounds like a cross between Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins. But that's just a good, catchy, weird album from an unsung prog band.
So after Marillion, the artist and the band?
It Bites is the artist.
I love it.
And the song is Underneath Your Pillow, and the album is Eat Me in St. Louis, 1989.
Under Your Pillow, okay.
Yeah, Underneath Your Pillow. And moving into the modern era, I'm gonna have to kick something out here. So you know what? I'm gonna call an audible and kick out the Flower Kings. Roy, God love, it's like they did so much for prog, right? He did so much stuff there, but I'm gonna have to move on and go with Steven Wilson. Actually, I'm missing a page here. Where did I go here? I got these in the wrong order. Yeah, it was either.
And Martin, do the Flower Kings have a song under 10 minutes anyway? So it's kind of hard.
Yeah, right. What did I have here? I had Silent Masses 617, but I also had Spock's Beard, and I think I'm going to have to call an audible and kick them out too, because I have to give homage to our guests here as well. So they've got to come in, right? So I do have Dream Theater from Octavarium with Never Enough. I thought at 646, it's action-packed. Great drumming, a lot of prog melodies, a lot of keys, a lot of cool Jordan stuff in there as well. Instrumental workout, very note dense riff. So I just wanted something to the point that represents Dream Theater. And
that was our Muse ripoff. We were ripping off Muse with that one.
Muse, wow. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right, yeah. And I also had to go with, Mike happens to be on drums on this one, but I just love to death OSI Free.
Oh wow.
That and Kevin Moore, you know how highly I rated the Chroma Key album, right, Peter? When we did that prog episode, I had that Chroma Key Graveyard Mountain Home so high. Like Kevin he's like this crazy Roger Waters semi-god to me, that laconic voice that he's got and everything. I just love OSI, not so much the first album, but I really love Free and Blood a lot. Let's see. So I did have Presto Ballet in here with Hard Time for Dreamers, 730. Off the last one, right? Very Kansas-y, very Styxy, quick paced, not too heavy, great harmonies, lots of odd time organ stuff, energetic, so again, just right to the point from the days between 2018. I had Steven Wilson Drive Home, 737 to represent how he carried on the prog tradition after Porcupine Tree, but absolutely, I had to have Porcupine Tree in here from my favorite Porcupine Tree album, Fear of a Blank Planet. Title track, 730, first track, really novel, gets you going real fast, kind of cool bass riff going on. So yeah, I might have cheated a little there, but maybe if we kick out the Spock's Beard and Flower Kings, I'm coming in at maybe 100 minutes. So not too bad. So I don't know. And I find it surprising that I've gone pretty heavy on modern stuff in there as well. But like I say, I had to throw out so much stuff. There's a million glaring exceptions here. So
well, Martin, I have to be honest, I'm a little confused. What's not included? So I have Genesis, Vandergrift Generator, UK, Yes for Side 1, Rush, King Crimson, Marillion, It Bites, Flower Kings, Dream Theater, OSI, and Porcupine Tree.
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of things that I left out when you talk to these other music swamis. So,
and what was the song by Porcupine Tree?
Fear of a Blank Planet.
Fear, okay.
It's a hard challenge. It really was.
Yeah.
Okay. And why should I check out your listings?
Because it is accessible. The songs get right to the point. They aren't too long. There's nothing too crazy and off the wall. Maybe the Vandergraaf and this particular version of King Crimson's a little off the wall, but Presto Ballet is just easy on the ears. So is this particular Dream Theater choice. The Porcupine Tree is very immediate. The Yes is about as immediate as you can get with, that nice twangy, slidey boogie entry to going for the one. And In the Dead of Night, pretty accessible too. So
right. And who
play devil's advocate? Can I ask a question? Why would you want to go so accessible if you're trying to sell somebody on prog? The big part of prog is like the non-accessible long stuff,
I just don't want them to run the other direction.
It's your tape.
Okay, and who is Presto Ballet by?
That man right down there in the lower corner. Kurdt Vanderhoof. Yep. 4 albums, right, Kurt? 4
No,
and
5. The band is Presto.
5. Yeah, love the debut. The debut is the one I played over and over
Ballet.
when that thing came
That's
out.
Kurt's other band, Kurt's prog band.
Yeah.
Presto Ballet.
That's the name of the band. Yep.
And what's the name of the song?
I had what did I have here? I had a Hard Time for Dreamers. And you know what? I find the band very Journey Styx and Kansas-like.
Good.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the idea.
All right.
Cool.
Cool. That's awesome.
All right, Kurt,
Okay,
you're up.
so-
All right. Well, hey, okay. I went through it from the point of like, okay, sitting around with a buddy of mine back in high school when all this stuff came out. I pretty much stayed 70s. Like, okay, so what is prog? You know, like, okay, the first thing I would do to a band that he would probably know would be Bytor and the Snow Dog, Fly By Night. That's kind of it's a good hard rock and straightforward, but yet it goes into different moods and it starts welcoming you into the whole thing of not having just verse, chorus, solo, end type of thing, which to me is a big, you know, that's a big part of the prog thing. So Bytor and the Snow Dog to get somebody started. And then, okay, here is, okay, now that's considered prog too. Now take a left turn to something that is prog, but more accessible. And actually, I believe this was the first like radio top 40 hit with an odd time signature. Living in the Past, Jethro Tull. So
Nice.
yeah. So to me, listening to that song, which is really hooky as can be, but yet when you think about it, it's in an odd time signature, which is odd to make that work to just your average listener. So okay, that was kind of like, okay, well, this is considered prog as well, and something I might get into. So I tried to stay, and it was really hard to do this stuff that this is some of my favorite stuff, but more of taking it a point of selling prog to somebody else. So, except there is an exception, like one of my favorite songs of all time, be it prog or rock or whatever, is Song for America by Kansas. And to me, that just covers the symphonic, insanely melodic, but plus lots of movements, different parts and different, you know, the serious arrangement aspect of it. Because every time I still hear that, when that melody kicks in, it's like I get, you know, audio diabetes. It's just like, wow. So that I figured had to bring in a different element of it. So, you know, so they can get that. And then after that, after the very super melodic, bringing in the quirky brilliance of Gentle Giant in Playing the Game. So I thought that's Gentle Giant, as much as I love him, a lot of people listen to him and it sounds like your stereo's broken to some people, you know, because it's so, they don't, I mean, everything is perfectly wrong and I just love it. And
Yelpy.
so, yeah. Exactly. So yeah, so I wanted to bring that in. So again, I'm kind of bringing in all the pieces that I think are kind of represent prog. Now here's a little bit obscure, not too obscure, but to bring in a little more of a very European flavor is Celebration by PFM.
Nice.
And I think that brings, I mean, it has the same elements, but it's kind of coming from it's a very different place, not only geographically, but there is definitely a kind of different sound to it. You know, it's not British and you know, it's not American. You don't really know what it is, but I think they're absolutely brilliant. So yeah, PFM would be one. Then bringing into another kind of, okay, here's another style, a sound, and another band that drew from more classical influences, a band I absolutely love, Renaissance and song Trip to the Fair, which has a really kind of spooky, broken down kind of, what would you say, you know, carnival type of vibe to it, which I think is really kind of cool. And I just think they're absolutely amazing. And yeah, so that would be Renaissance to bring in more of the classical vibe of things.
Nice. I actually heard them on the radio on my way down to Ocean City the other day on Deep Tracks.
Really?
Tracks, yeah.
Which song?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was that song, but it was Renaissance.
Yeah, cool. I just love it. This is really, yeah, they're amazing. And this one is on an album that was hugely popular, but it's by a band that I find gets very overlooked very often, especially in the prog community. They were more proggy in the 70s, but Vanilla Queen by Golden Earring.
Oh yeah.
And I think I love this record. I mean, yeah, Radar Love. I mean, what do you say about that? But the rest of the album is amazing prog stuff.
Their 70s albums are so killer.
Yeah, so exactly. Really good. And nobody ever talks about
Vanilla Queen.
Pardon?
Was that the song of the album, Vanilla Queen?
No, the song is Moontan, but the big hit was Radar Love on that. So
Right. So the song was Moontan.
no, the album is Moontan.
Okay.
The song is Vanilla Queen.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
And then to me, this is probably prog rock's finest moment. You know, and it's certainly arguable, but it's a taste thing. But to me, whether it's my favorite or not, you know, it was this, you know, 2112 or Hemispheres, you know, those kind of moments where you just you can't believe what you're hearing. But for me, the more I got into these guys, and this song still to the day, to me, is Close to the Edge by Yes. To me, that's like the pinnacle of like, if you have one song, what is prog? I would probably pick that. So yeah, Close to the Edge by Yes had to be in there. And again, I struggled between 2112 and Hemispheres and, Supper's Ready, a couple of other really great ones, but I kind of went, okay, not my favorite. Who would I turn it on to? So,
and there's half your side B.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think I actually come in at like almost, I think I'm almost there. I could be wrong.
7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So then you got to bring in another style, because they have the one thing I love about most of the 70s bands, be it prog or rock or whatever, is everybody had a different sound, whether it was production wise, guitar sounds, drum sound, the way they recorded, everybody sounded different. And I love that. And Genesis is certainly in there with a completely other kind of, more pastoral sound. Watch Your Other Skies. So on Foxtrot, one of my favorite records. And it would not be complete without bringing in ELP. And my favorite song is Carnival 9, First Impression, to bring in just the 3-piece heavy Hammond organ aspect of prog. So I think that pretty much finishes me up.
Okay, so your second to last, Genesis, Watcher of the Skies, ELP, Carnival 9.
First Impression, yeah.
First, right. That's the 3-minute version?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, 4.5.
It's just the intro. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Very nice. I liked it. So,
Mr. Portnoy, what you got?
Do you take PayPal? Yeah.
All right. Well, I took the rules very seriously. So first of all, the 90-minute rule was very hard given the nature of this music. So being that it was, we had to have a 90-minute thing, I immediately took off all the sidelong epics. So there's no Supper's Ready, there's no Close to the Edge, no 2112, anything that was over the 20-minute mark, I took it off the list because, we had to come in with this 90-minute limit. But I also took the side length seriously as well. So I had to literally make side A 45 minutes and side B 45 minutes, which was really difficult. So when you talk about prog music, these time limitations are really tricky. Yeah. But I made this work. And the other thing was I didn't include anything from my catalog. So Dream Theater was off the table, Transatlantic. I mean, I joked around with the email with you guys when we first brought this up that my entire 90-minute list could have been the last Transatlantic album. It was basically one 90-minute song. I could have said, okay, Absolute Universe, thank you, goodbye.
Yeah, that's awesome, by the way.
Thank you. But so, yeah, anything of mine was not on the table either. So with all that being said, I did a 45-minute side A and a 45-minute side B, and I did it chronologically as well. So I'm calling my mixtape The Evolution of Prog. So this way, from start to finish, you're hearing the evolution and how it changes. And the way it worked out is side A is really the first generation from the 70s, touch of the early 80s, and then the second side is more of the next generation of prog. So here we go. With all that being said, side A opens with Yes's Heart of the Sunrise. You mentioned Close to the Edge. I mean, Close to the Edge is probably my favorite Yes track. But taking the sidelong ones off the table, I would say Heart of the Sunrise does in 11 minutes and 20 seconds everything that pretty much sums up Yes right there in one song. So I thought that was just really a great way to open the tape and introduce somebody to that all-star lineup. Yes, John Anderson, Chris Squire, Bill Bruford, Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman. For my money, that is the ultimate quintessential Yes lineup, and we only got 2 albums out of that lineup. Second track is a few years later. I mean, the first track was 1971. Second track, we go to 1973 with Genesis and Firth the Fifth. And once again, Watcher of the Sky is a great choice. One of my all-time favorites. Supper's Ready would have been a great choice, but I didn't want to go that long. So I figured Firth the Fifth, 9 minutes.
I'm sorry, how do you pronounce that? Firth?
If you don't know how to spell Firth the Fifth, you really do need this mixtape.
Firth or Fifth?
Firth of Fifth.
Birth of Fifth.
So whoever wins, he's got to get the actual mixtape now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I
to me, Firth the Fifth is, like Heart of the Sunrise. It's showing everything that Genesis in that classic era is like in a 9.5 minute song. It's, the whole piano intro, the whole middle section where they're playing through the piano part as a band, and then Steve Hackett's solo. Everything about that song is so great. And that is one of the ones that Transatlantic covered on our first tour.
That's right.
Favorite. Third track is 12 minutes and 18 seconds. 1974, King Crimson, Starless. As far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest songs ever written. And once again, you got Bill Bruford on that, and it's from the Red album, but classic lineup: Bruford, Fripp, John Wetton, and Starless, for my money, is like the quintessential King Crimson epic. The first half is so melodic. John Wetton's vocals are so beautiful and melodic. Then you have that middle section, which is so creepy and evil, and that bass tone, and Fripp just holding like those single notes for like 16 bars at a time before even moving. And Bruford's playing, it's just perfection. And then the climax at the end is just like goosebumps. And just, to me, one of the greatest prog songs ever written. And I did cover that one as well with Neil Morse, and it's just an all-time favorite. So that would be the third track on side A. Fourth track, we move ahead a few years to 1979, and it's a band that's already been mentioned, UK.
Nice.
But I didn't go with the first album because so far we've already had Bruford with Yes, we've had Bruford with Crimson, and we had Genesis, which is a band that Bruford played with as well. So I didn't want to have the first 4 songs being Bruford affiliated songs. So I picked a UK song from the second album, Danger Money, with Terry Bozzio. And I love both UK albums. The first one, you have Bruford's drumming, and then you have Holdsworth's, real fusion-esque influence onto that album. And then the second album, Danger Money, you had Terry Bozzio's incredible drumming, him coming right out of having played with Zappa at that point, and he was in Zappa's band with Eddie Jobson. So that, the Danger Money version of UK was like a little bit more of like the Zappa alumni version of UK. But anyway, the track is The Only Thing She Needs. 7 minutes, 55 seconds, opens up with this great Terry Bozzio drum intro and these great motifs. Bum, 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 bum. I mean, it's just so prog. It's just so cool. And Terry's drumming on that track is ridiculous.
That's a great song. That's a great song. Yeah.
And then closing out side A, and once again, I timed these out to 45 minutes a side. I really wanted to go with a Rush song. I wanted to go with La Via Strangiato, but I couldn't fit it on the side. So we were about 40 minutes up to this point. I only had time for about a 5-minute Rush song. So I went with YYZ. It's kind of like La Via Strangiato Jr. You know what I mean? Like La Via is my real favorite Rush instrumental, but YYZ is such a classic. It shows off all 3 of them at their peak playing. And that, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, these are 3 of the best musicians in the world. So I had to include a Rush song, and I figured with only 5 minutes to spare, I guess YYZ would kind of sum them up pretty well. So that's a 45-minute side A, 5 bands. Flip the tape, and side B now takes us into the next generation of prog. And it opens with Marillion's trilogy that opens up the Clutching at Straws album. Hotel Hobbies, Warm Wet Circles, and That Time of the Night. It's a 3-song kind of trilogy suite that opens up Clutching at Straws. And those 3 together equal about 12 or 13 minutes. And, you know, it was, I didn't know if I wanted to pick something off of the, you know, Misplaced Childhood is my favorite Marillion album, but every one of those songs, I don't know, none of them kind of stand alone as a real great prog example. Whereas I thought these 3 really showed their range. I loved, you know, Fish is such a great lyricist, and I loved all of his lyrics, but in particular on the Clutching at Straws album, it was great, him struggling with his alcoholism and stuff like that. And then the band is just, as soon as I heard Pete Travis's playing on those albums, I knew he was the man for Transatlantic, and you know, I was sold immediately. But anyway, these 3 songs I think really showcase you know, the greatest parts of what that last Marillion album with Fish had to represent. Then speaking of Transatlantic band members, I had to go with Spock's Beard, The Light as my next track, moving ahead into 1995. So now we're kind of post Dream Theater prog world at this point with this. But this was my introduction to Neil Morse, and this is the longest track here on my mixtape. It's about, The Light is about 15.5 minutes. But I made the exception for this long track just because it's one of those songs, once again, that shows everything of what made Spock's Beard with Neil in the band so great. You know, Neil's incredibly melodic, hooky melodies and vocals, the great musicianship of everybody in the band. Alan Morse on guitar, Rio, and actually Rio didn't play on the album, but he was in the band at that point. But Dave Maros on bass, just tapping into the Chris Squire vibes, Nick DiVirgilio's drumming and singing. And anyway, The Light, the title track from the first album is just classic Neil Morse, Spock's Beard prog. The next track is the real out of place track. But I wanted to include one track from this particular album to really show the evolution of prog, how prog, you know, was at one point in the 70s something, but by the time prog got into the 90s, it started splintering off to a lot of different places. And one band that is they're not a prog band at all, but in this album, they had a lot of prog elements, and it was from Radiohead's OK Computer album in 1997. And they started fiddling with a lot of prog elements on that album. And probably the most notable would be Paranoid Android, but I went with a different track. I picked Exit Music for a Film, which shows them like sonically experimenting with all these incredible soundscapes. The chord progression is so beautiful. The melody is so haunting. The sound effects and the production is just, it's like, you know, that album was to me like their Sgt. Pepper or their Dark Side of the Moon. It was just so experimental. So I think I wanted to have at least one Radiohead track that kind of shows how prog was splintering off into some new things in the 90s. And the last song, what's that?
I'm sorry. So that song is Exit Music for a Film?
Right.
Okay.
Which has been used in so many movies and stuff, by the way. There was a Black Mirror episode that used it at the end of the episode.
By the way, my son is a big fan of Radiohead.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, OK Computer is pretty much a prog album. You know, they were kind of like an alternative band, I guess, or indie band, whatever you call them. But OK Computer has some serious prog influences.
Okay.
And the last track to close out side B, once again showing where prog went in you know, in the later generations, and kind of bringing it more into the metal world. I wanted to have an Opeth song on there, so I went with The Baying of the Hounds from the 2005 Ghost Reveries album. And to me, that album, Ghost Reveries and Watershed, were pretty much the perfect middle ground between where they were with their kind of death metal albums, and it's kind of like the bridge to where they ended up going with more of their modern like fusion or prog influences. So to me, The Baying of the Hounds is kind of like the perfect prog metal song of theirs. It's about 10 minutes long and has a little bit of everything that just made them so cool and make them so cool. So there you go, the evolution of prog.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you to everybody so far.
Yeah, I'm killing myself. I had to leave Opeth off because I just ran out of room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Storm Crows,
I left
yeah.
new stuff off. Yeah, I did too. My Porcupine Tree, my Opeth, and yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. All right. So I would say my tape is stylistically not that far removed from what Mike kind of did. So I also, went down to like the times and all that kind of stuff because we did that on the previous episodes as well. And what I did was I figured Jack, if I'm trying to sell you on this mixtape, you don't really know a lot about prog. I really wanted to give you a taste of the classics. So those bands from the 70s, but then kind of bring you to more modern, days and give you a taste of, some of the more recent bands that have made an impact on the scene. So that's kind of how I did. So my side A of my tape is going to be all classic 70s bands and 70s songs. We're going to start it off with Yes. I picked Siberian Khatru from the Close to the Edge album. Probably my favorite. It's funny, Close to the Edge is probably the greatest prog album of all time, the greatest prog epic of all time, and Siberian Khatru is probably my favorite Yes song of all time. It's just under 9 minutes long. It's got, Rick Wakeman's all over the place. It's got the mellotron and the organ and all the synths and everything. Great guitar work from Steve Howe. The bass is wonderful. You got Bruford, John Anderson. Just love the song. It's magic. It's what prog is all about. Second track, I think Kurdt also picks this one as well. I'm going to go Watcher of the Skies by Genesis off of Foxtrot. It's got that haunting mellotron in the beginning. It's got the, dun, 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 dun. It's just such a dramatic, powerful song. It's one of my favorite Genesis songs. And again, another band where I had a whole bunch of songs that I wanted to choose, but you got to be conscious of the time, right? So, I was looking at the Fountain of Salmacis and all these other things were like 10, 12, 15 minutes long. I'm like, oh, all right. So Watcher of the Skies is about as classic early Genesis or Gabriel era as you can get. That's a reasonable time limit here. Number 3, I'm going to go to King Crimson. Again, had a whole host of songs I wanted to choose. Most of them are way too long. But I said, well, what's a great song from a great album that isn't that long and it's fairly representative of this period in the band's history? So I went to the title track to Red. I wanted to pick Starless, but it was a little long. And I was like, you know what? Red is it's instrumental. So you don't get Wetton's vocals on it, but that riff is so great. It's so metallic and it just kind of really shows the danger that was that King Crimson lineup. I mean, they could really hit you hard and heavy 1 minute and then the really beautiful stuff the next. So King Crimson, Red. Next up, got to have some ELP in here. I went with, from the first album, I went with Knife Edge, which pretty amazing song that I think does not get a lot of talk about it. Everybody talks about ELP. They talk about Carnival 9 and they talk about Tarkus and all sorts of other songs, but Knife Edge is good. It's kind of heavy. It's great Emerson keyboards on it, great vocals from Greg Lake. So that's my next choice. And I'm surprised nobody picked Pink Floyd. I figure you got to have a Floyd song on here. And again, it's like, what do you want to choose here? Some of my favorites are really long. Couldn't really pick anything from Animals. Certainly can't fit Echoes on here because it's 20 plus minutes. So I said, well, what's really creepy, really proggy, great synths, great vocals. Welcome to the Machine.
Oh, nice.
Has all those elements. Yeah. So from there, I'm going to keep it. And I think I've picked all British bands so far, right? And we're going to continue here for a little bit. Jethro Tull. I had originally a couple of other tracks that I was considering. But then I wanted to get something that's from maybe a little bit later in the decade of the 70s. So I went with the title track from Songs from the Wood. It's got that kind of medieval folky flavor, but it's also very complex and kind of heavy in the middle section, right? Which is what you get from a lot of prog. So 4 minutes, 52 seconds. So title track to that album. And then number 7, going to go to Gentle Giant, one of my favorite bands of all time. I decided to go to the song The Advent of Panurge. And Jack, if you want to know how to spell it, it's Panurge.
Advent of Panurge.
Panurge,
Yeah.
Great track.
You do, and you'll clean it up, right?
Yeah. You know what? I'll find it. No.
Jack actually wants to go and make like Spotify playlist of all of our picks, so that's why he's asking all these questions.
I've done that before, guys.
Yeah.
He's not kidding.
But a great song, majestic, awesome vocals. You got like
actually
3 of the guys singing.
I made a Spotify playlist out of your UFO dream. dream set list.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Congratulations on
That
that.
works. That works. And to finish off side A of the tape is going to be, now we're going to come back to the USA here. Another one of my all-time.
Oh, sorry. You fit all that on side A?
Yep. Exactly.
Damn.
Well, because a couple of them are like 4 or 5 minutes. So I was very meticulous with this. Kansas, I'm going to go to the Mask album for Icarus, Born on Wings of Steel. And I really, I was going to go with another track, but then that track didn't have Robbie's violin. And I'm like, if you're going to have a Kansas song, got to have a song that's got all the elements to it. So Born on Wings of Steel is kind of heavy, kind of rocking, very proggy. It's got the wonderful violin, got all the elements. So that ends side A. Side B, the first 2 songs are going to continue with the 70s. The first is Vandergraaf Generator. The song is called Pilgrims. Figure if you're going to have a Vandergraaf song, you got to have a little of that Peter Hamill angst, those angry vocals, got to have the atmospheric keyboards, right? The organ. This has a little bit of everything from Vandergraaf. So it's from their mid-period, which their mid-period is very angry stuff. So that's what I went with. And then to close out the 70s part of this mixtape here is Camel, Song Within a Song from the Moon Man, this album. Again, Camel's a very important band in the 70s, a period of prog rock. Their music is absolutely gorgeous. This is a really strong album. Andy Latimer's guitar, got the wonderful Pete Pardo keyboards, just really, really nice track here. And then the rest of side B is all going, well, for the most part. I got one exception coming up at the end. We're going to go, my third track. It's going to be one of Mike's songs here. 6 o'clock in a Christmas morning. It's just called 6 o'clock Jack from the Dream Theater Awake album. Had a hard time picking a Dream Theater song, but I knew I had to get one on there because to me, one of the bands that really helped shape what we knew of as prog and prog metal in the 90s. And I think
Thank you, sir.
so many bands.
Thank you.
And myself as well. I mean, I listened to nothing but Dream Theater for like so much of the 90s because I really wasn't digging a lot of other stuff that was out there.
There wasn't anything else going on, really.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Yeah. So next up, another band from now Mike's neck of the woods, Echoland, As the World. Really great band. Heavily influenced by Gentle Giant and a bunch of other 70s bands, but actually got signed to a record deal with Sony. Sony didn't know what the hell to do with them, and before you know it, they were off the label. But the band has persevered. They broke up for a while, got back together, still putting out great music. We haven't seen an album from them in a while, but I think they have something new in the works. Really good band.
They're still around?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, they've had some stops and starts along the way, but yeah, they've been. I think they were working on an album all throughout last year. I don't know when that's coming out, but yeah, really good band. And then my fifth track is I have to have Spock's Beard in here. Again, a lot of really long songs, some really cool, shorter, poppy songs. I mean, what a great band. And this is when Neil was in the band. Day for Night, title track to that album. And I wanted to include this because it's challenging musically, but man, the song is so catchy. I mean, Neil is just one of the greatest writers of catchy melodies of the last like 30 years. And Day for Night for me is just feel good music. It's prog, but it's upbeat, it's bouncy, you can dance to it, and it's just hooks to die for on there. And it's not too long, it's just over 7 minutes. Next up, number 6, going to go back a little ways into the early 80s. Probably should have put this a little bit earlier in the tape, but I had to get some Marillion on here. And Mike, I almost did exactly what you did. Like I love the Clutching at Straws album. And for me, it's almost like I have a hard time taking any of those songs out, except for maybe Incommunicado, which kind of doesn't fit with the rest. I love it. And I was like, well, instead of doing multiple songs, let me find something else. So I went back to one of the earlier albums and I pulled out the track Assassin, which I think is really cool. Got a nice menacing fish vocal, a lot of great synths from Mark Kelly. Really, really good track. Catchy too, just like, all their stuff is. And then we're going to go number 7, Little Porcupine Tree. Going to kick it up a notch. This song's pretty heavy. Might actually be either this or the Dream Theater song. It's probably the heaviest song on my tape here, but I'm going to go with Blackest Eyes from Porcupine Tree. Really great track. And to finish it all off, I'm going to circle back to the early 80s for a band that I included on my on the last one that we did, and I almost wasn't going to include Rush on this again, but they are a prog band as well as a hard rock band as well. So I went, instead of going back to the 70s, I went to the early 80s. I went to the Signals album for Rush, The Analog Kid.
Mhm.
Great one.
Really cool track, kind of bring it back a little more modern. And if I could squeeze in a couple extra minutes, I think 4 and change, Presto Ballet, You're Alive, and there we have my tape. Done. I went over a little bit, but you know.
Okay. Analog.
I had to delete Blackest Eyes off mine because I went over. That was my last, like, just pushed me over the edge.
It was hard trying to pick a Porcupine Tree song. I was like, oh my God, they have so many great ones. Like,
That's the first Porcupine Tree song I ever heard. And I had one of those very few and far between moments when I heard it. And it was kind of like hearing the first Van Halen or the first Boston. You're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And I heard Blackest Eyes, never heard of them before. And it was like, wow, then dove right in, it's like, so huge fan ever since.
So it's funny. Last year, I got in for review on the channel. I got a live album from Martin Barr, the guitar player from Jethro Tull's band, and it was just him and his band playing a live show, recording of a live show, played at the Daryl's Club, Daryl's house in Pauling, New York, which is near where I live. And I didn't make the show, but I got the live album, and I'm sitting there listening to it. Not even looking at the track list. I popped in the car one day. I'm driving to the gym, and all of a sudden, I'm hearing this really familiar song. I'm like, wait a second, I know that song. And I go and I pull up the CD, and it's them doing a version of Blackest Eyes. And I'm like,
No way.
Great.
That's
Apparently
bizarre.
they play that live all
Really
the time.
bizarre.
I was like, go figure.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's listening. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, meanwhile, Steven remixed, I think he remixed Aqualung and Thick as a Brick as well. I think Steven Wilson has remixed every band we've mentioned. He's Genesis, Yes, Crimson. He's pretty much redone the entire prog catalog.
Yeah.
Have you listened to his remixes of the Yes catalog?
Yeah.
What do you think of him? You like him?
I mean, everything sounds crisper. He's very faithful.
Yes.
The way the original mixes are. I think he just makes everything just slightly clearer, cleaning everything up. But I think he does a great job with all.
Oh, I think so. I don't own it. That's why I was asking. I just only heard little snippets, and I found it to be really amazing to hear those records and go, you can really hear how that sound of the record was exactly how it sounded when they recorded it, because it doesn't vary too much. You can hear that's what the kick drum sounded like, when they made it, and it's like, that would be a really fun experience to pop on the original masters just to see. I mean, I envy him for that gig, to be able to do.
God, yeah.
Wouldn't that have
Being
been
able
fun?
to sift through those tapes, I mean, this must be incredible. Yeah.
I know, just like one of those moments of,
He's done a great job on the Tull catalog so far, and I've loved his King Crimson remixes. Amazing, like really good. So
I have to get him.
yeah.
And even if you're looking at this list, I think he did one of the Marillion albums, I think, as well. And he also worked with Opeth, mixing the early Opeth stuff. So he's really either mixed or remixed almost every band we've named here. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Jackson, what do you think?
Okay, so first off, I'm going to say everybody, great job. I feel bad that I have to pick one winner out of you guys, because everybody scored at least an 8.7 out of 10 for me. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so Martin, I'm sorry, you got the 8.7. There's a lot of things in here that I'm going to explore, like so Pete and I had a suite mate who basically almost ruined Genesis for me. This guy would play him at 2-3 in the morning to his females and whatever the hell they were doing. But yeah, but I'm definitely got to go back and explore some of the old Genesis that all of you have brought to, Watcher in the Skies, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which I gave you credit for. Going for the One, I love that song. You got a lot of credit for that one. Dream Theater, Never Enough. I love the album Octavarium. And if I have a chance, I'm going to go through my 90 minutes, but it's only 8 songs after the fact. So 8.7 for Martin. Next, Mike, I gave you 9 out of 10. So I loved your choice of Heart of the Sunrise. First of Fifth, it's a tongue twister, but I'm going to check that out.
Great song.
I've heard of. YYZ, I love. Marillion, I really have no familiarity, so I got to check that out. Spock's Beard, I definitely have to check that out because there's a Spock's Beard on my list. Radiohead, that was a great choice. I got to discuss that one with my son. So yeah, 9 out of 10. Next, I don't want to seem like I'm kissing ass here, but Pete's got the 9.5. Kurdt, I give you 9.3. So
Glad to be in.
I mean, I love your choices. Bytor and the Snow Dog, Living in the Past. Song for America, I'm very familiar with. Again, Gentle Giant. Oh, PFM. My mother's Italian, so they love PFM. So
I like PF Chang's. Does that count for anything?
it's not authentic. Corporate American. Renaissance, I mentioned that I heard the other day on the radio. Close to the Edge, great song. So again, great job.
Cool.
And Pete, you kind of wowed me. Siberian Kachru, Knife Edge, Welcome to the Machine. I have another song from that album on my list. Songs from the Wood, I think you know how much I love that. Kansas, I got to check that out. Spock's Beard, I definitely have to check that out. And let's see, I think, yeah. Porcupine Tree, you've mentioned to me a few times. I love Analog Kid, so he gets this one, 9.5 out of 10.
So you get to keep your show, Pete.
I get to keep my show doing this, right? I don't know if that's a prize or not.
So who are the very biggest bands that didn't get on anybody's lists? Anybody got any ideas? Caravan?
Moody Blues?
Yeah, Moody Blues, yes. That's a big one. Huge one.
Procol Harum.
First three prog albums of all time almost, right?
Probably, yeah.
No Moody Blues, no Procol Harum, no Frank Zappa.
Right, yeah. So I have 8. I'm gonna go through very fast. Okay. Dream Theater, Panic Attack. Love that song. Pink Floyd, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 through 5. Absolutely love it. ELP, I had to go with Tarkus. I love the keyboard work. So I don't care that it was 20 minutes.
You're the judge. You can do that. Yeah.
I had to shoehorn a 3-minute song by Kansas, Paradox. Jethro Tull, Farm on the Freeway. I love that. Symphony X, Through the Looking Glass. They didn't get mentioned here.
True.
Spock's Beard, From the Darkness. And yes, my favorite track, Yours Is No Disgrace.
Nice.
So that was mine.
Another big one I would have liked to have seen, but I didn't want to put them on really, is Peter Gabriel. I just love every one of those records, right?
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
we could have
really
a lot of solo stuff. Yeah,
I went right through security again, making up this list, and I'm going, I just can't put this on. It's just not really prog, right? So, yeah.
So Jack, so you probably have what, about 60% of what we listed is stuff you're going to check out now?
Yeah, or at least 50%. I mean, granted, I know the more famous Genesis stuff, but what you guys mentioned, I have to check out. Yeah.
And that covers Gabriel. I mean, I know Martin, you mentioned, not having any of his solo stuff mentioned, but I mean, he's definitely well represented with the early Genesis stuff that we all mentioned. So he is in there.
And I will say, so this old sweet man in college that Jack is talking about, he would never play the Gabriel stuff. In fact, Jack, I guarantee you, he never even knew that Peter Gabriel was in Genesis. He would only play those like early 80s pop hits. That's all he would play.
I think he knows 2 songs, Susu Studio and In the Air Tonight. That's it.
In the Air Tonight isn't even Genesis. That's Phil Collins' solo.
That's his solo. There you go. That's perfect.
See, means no difference to me.
I love the Genesis stuff, but I keep coming back to my favorite Genesis album is Wind and Wuthering, where it's just
really,
yeah, it's just like there's something about just like these sonic landscapes going on all over that record. Where I miss Gabriel, but just musically that record takes me like the first one All in a Mouse's Night, and then Blood on the Rooftops. And some of that stuff is just like, it's just.
And Trick of the Tail too, before that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's post Gabriel, but I think that album is as strong as Foxtrot or Lamb or Selling England. And I just recently watched, there's a great Genesis Live in '76 from their first tour. and it's Bruford on drums. So it was the one tour that Bruford did with the band, their first one with Phil Collins out front, and it's from the Trick of the Tail tour. You got to check it out. It's on YouTube.
I gotta see that.
It's incredible. It's them playing all that classic Gabriel stuff, but with Bruford on drums, and it's so good, so good.
Nice. I gotta check that out for sure.
And
Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't hear any Magma on Pete's list. Pete the big Magma
Not a
fan.
chance, Martin. Not a chance.
or Omega.
Amon Duel 2.
Yeah, no krautrock at all. Nobody mentioned any krautrock.
I was wondering to do some Tangerine Dream just from the way I approached it, to go, this is in that genre too, and it's way over there, and then it's way over here and stuff like that.
Well, it's hard because there are all these like little subgenres, right? So you got like the Canterbury stuff, you got the German stuff. You can squeeze a little fusion things in here too if you want. So there's so many other ways to go. But like I thought about that. Then I'm like, well, I want to represent like, someone who doesn't know anything about this. It's like,
right. I'm glad you mentioned Camel, because I'm a huge Camel fan. Yeah, love that.
I had to squeeze them in here somewhere, right?
Yeah,
felt bad not putting them in. So, well, there you have it, everybody. 4 really cool prog mixtapes. I think that we had some similarities, but a lot of differences. And I'm not going to brag, but I won today. Woohoo! Not by much. I thought we all did.
Favoritism, guys. I was pulling for all of you. I'll be honest.
Hey, we're all winners here, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Whoever listens to these mixtapes, they're the winners.
That's right.
Well, I was just going to say that the winners are the viewers. If you haven't heard any of this stuff, go out and check it out. Do like what Jack says. If you're a Spotify person, go check them out on Spotify, check them out on YouTube. Or if you got them in your collections and you haven't listened to them in a while, well, go pull them off the rack and go pop them in. So I want to thank everybody for joining here today. Martin Popoff, Mike Portnoy, Kurdt Vanderhoof, and of course, Jack for being a sport and listening to all of our mixtapes here. Anybody got anything that they want to plug before we go? New projects, new albums, new books, anything like that?
Particularly?
Yeah.
No, it's quiet at this end.
Yeah.
The Transatlantic and LTE albums recently came out, so those are my 2 latest albums. And the Neil Morse Band album will be out in August. Actually, next week we're going to be announcing the details for that. So starting next week, there'll be more info out there about that. And I'm just waiting to tour, man. I'm losing my mind,
Right?
At home.
I'm sitting in the studio and it's like, okay, I like this, but I've had enough.
Yeah. So just patiently waiting to play again.
There you go.
Of your new Transatlantic album, Mike, which version? Because I was looking online, there's a lot of versions. Which would you recommend?
Well,
I have all your other of Transatlantic.
To me, more, with prog, it's more is more. So, we have a single disc, 60-minute version, but I would recommend the double disc version, which is, and like I said earlier, it's basically a 90-minute song or piece of music.
I've listened to bits and pieces of it.
I'd go with, I would go with the Blu-ray if you can get it, because that takes both of them, puts it together for a third version, which is like 100-minute version, and it's got a 5.1 mix and a complete film that goes with it. So if anything, that's the ultimate way to experience it.
Now, is there a vinyl version?
Yeah, all of the above, of all the versions. Yeah,
all of the above, no pun intended.
Yeah, totally.
Very cool. Kurdt, how's the solo album coming?
It's done. It's just waiting for it to come out. So yeah, that's just an adventure into standard 70s riff rock. So just waiting for the record company to decide when to put it out, when a good time would be. So
awesome. Whether
we should put it out around any gigs, if there's going to be any, or if it's just going to be under, a bonus thing with a Metal Church release, who knows? It's sitting there. It's one of those things in the archives now. So, but I'm pretty excited about it. It was a lot of fun, but cool. just straight up guitar riff rock. So
looking forward to hearing it. Well, we got a lot of new music. Hopefully see both of you guys out on the road sometime soon.
Yeah.
Oh boy, let's hope.
Definitely. Just really quick, speedy recovery to my Uncle Pasquale from my parents and my brother. We love you. All the best to you.
Awesome. All the best. Yep. So thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate it. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. Visit us on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Jack Toledano, Martin Popoff, Kurdt Vanderhoof, and Mike Portnoy, I'm Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody.
See you guys.